Hey guys, my name is Noelle Fuller. I am the Assistant Coordinator for the Academic Resource Center, also known as the ARC. And today I'm going to be walking you through our study prep session, giving you some study tips and skills that we think can help you manage your semester. Please note that this is not a deep dive into any one topic. The goal of this session is to be an overview of several different study prep areas that should be most important to your time as a student, and to kind of point you in the right direction to get you going on doing some deeper diving and deeper planning on some of these different areas. So hopefully this will be a good place for you to start working on some of these things. Two things I want to encourage you with before we get started. Make sure that while you're going through this process of developing your study skills, that you are finding things that work for you. Just because they are these skills may be highly rated or a lot of people use them doesn't mean that they're going to work for you, and that is okay. If something doesn't work for you, just dump it and try something else. And also, you aren't always going to be perfect on a lot of these things. None of us are, and we're all still growing in a lot of these different areas. So just keep working at some of these different things. Keep practicing, keep planning, and it should help make your time studying and your skills a lot more efficient. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to start with is encouraging you that now is the time to start planning out your semester. It really is best to start planning these things out at the beginning of the semester before you are in the midst of everything. But sometimes you just have to get a hold of things when you're in the middle of things, and that's okay. But really, if you can start planning your semester, the earlier the better. Now, why is it important to plan as soon as possible? Basically, it's more important to plan, or it's more difficult to plan when things start to get too busy. So when your workload is just overwhelming with school and stuff, it's really important to have some of these skills ready to go in your repertoire so that you can just pull them out when you need them. So start planning, the sooner the better. Now, this kind of leads to the next question. What should you be planning? So now I'm going to walk you through some areas that I think are important to start planning, especially before things start to go a little crazy on you. So this first one is probably the most important thing. It is developing a study schedule, especially before stuff really starts to get going for you. And so we're going to dive into this and kind of show you what a study schedule or a study plan might look like. So the way to think of a study plan is that it's going to be a macro view of your semester. This is the way for you to get a snapshot of what your semester is going to look like and to start planning before things start sneaking up on you so you don't forget things, and so that you can look and see when you're going to be busy, when things are going to be coming up, so that you can start preparing for them. The way you would get this set up is you would look over your syllabi for big due dates. Typically, these larger things they're more heavily weighted in your syllabi and your grading system from your professor. Usually they're things like papers and tests and projects. Those are the things that you want to put those due dates on your calendar so you can plot out time for studying. You can kind of plan your work schedules around these things, plan out your free time around these things, and so on and so forth. And you can kind of see here that I've done kind of a mock plan for someone's week, including work shifts, and then when you have class happening, and then you've got some assignments like lab report, your narrative essays coming up, an exam, all these different kinds of things. So this is just kind of an example of what something would look like this. And you can do this in any format that you think works best for you. This is done in Google Calendar. A lot of students really like using Google Calendar because it syncs directly with your Canvas. So there's ways that you can use that might be helpful. You can use Apple Calendar, you can use any other calendar app that you use, or if you're a paper planner person, you can definitely use this method as well. But again, it's a really great way for you to get a snapshot of your semester so you won't be surprised by anything. So this is very important to get done as soon as possible. and just to keep yourself on track. Another thing to note, the micro view of your kind of day to day and week to week schedule, it's good to make a to-do list. Again, you can do this on paper if that works best for you. There's tons of apps that are really great for to-do lists. But again, that's going to be a more micro view of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, what you want to accomplish in a day. Some people like to make those the Sunday before the week happens, or even the night before each day. Again, whatever works best for you. But it's good to kind of have a big study plan for the macro view, and then make to-do lists throughout your days to keep on top of those micro view type things. All right, the next thing that is very important to get a handle on and to start learning some good skills for is how to take good notes. Now, most people have a misconception about what taking notes actually looks like. Most people think that the goal of writing notes is to write down literally everything your professor says. And I can tell you that that is not a it's not a good strategy for taking notes. First of all, it's impossible for you to do that because people talk a lot faster than they write. So you will not be able to write down everything that your professor says. And that will also just drive you crazy. And it's just not an efficient way to learn from your notes and to take notes. So I'm going to present some different methods that should be helpful in thinking about how to take good notes. But it's also important to remember that notes are going to be your study guide. The way that you take down notes, your notes are going to be what you're engaging with when you are studying for your classes outside of your normal class time. So it's very vital to take good notes so that you can study off of them later. So I'll walk through a couple examples. This is the first one. This is called the outlining method. It's a very simple method and a lot of people use it. It's really great for classes that have very structured lectures. So for instance, if you're in a history class and maybe you're talking about something like the Civil War, you might have your kind of big idea up here as a part of what you're writing down. So maybe you're talking about the Battle of Gettysburg, and then a subtopic might be something a little bit smaller under that. So maybe you're talking about General Robert E. Lee. And then maybe you'll write down some dates or different ideas underneath that. So this would be an example of one method that you can use. And it's really easy to go and study off of this later. Another one that's very useful, especially for building a study guide for later, is the Cornell method. So this is very similar to the outlining method. Basically, what you would do is you would write those big ideas and concepts on one side of your sheet, and you would draw a line kind of down the side here, and then write everything that you want to know about that main idea on the other side of the line. So basically with this, what you can do is you can fold the paper down this line that you've drawn, and then you can flip it over and look at those big ideas and try to remember what you wrote down for it, and do vice versa for the other side as well. But that's kind of a really easy way just to build a study guide off your notes. Another method that a lot of people use is the mind map method. This method is really good to use for more like discussion-based classes, or maybe classes where you're talking about different processes that you might want to draw out or write down. So it kind of follows this method of connecting ideas to each other. So you might have one thing that you're talking about, and then it kind of branches off into another thing, and that relates back to something else that you talked about. So it's a lot more flexible than either of the two, the Cornell method or the outlining method. So one thing that's really important to note is that you might not use any of these methods. You might come up with your own method that works a lot better. There's a lot of different methods out there that are good to go over. And I'll show you some resources to kind of dig more deeply into these things later. But you might also combine some of these methods. I was an English major, so I had a lot of discussion-based lectures that kind of delved into, so I would kind of use a mixture of the outlining method and the mind map method. Again, find something that works for you and just stick with that. And it might look different for different classes. It's going to look different for different people, but just find what works best for you and go with that. All right. Next thing, find techniques that help you manage stress and encourage your productivity. So again, this is really important to have kind of nailed down before you get really stressed so that you can kind of pull some of these methods out when you need them. And there's a few that we're going to talk over, but again, I'll provide resources for more that you can delve into later. So first thing, and this is a little, might be a little obvious, but it's good to have a clean workspace when you are working on studying or working on work or whatever that may be. I don't know about you, but I get really annoyed when my desk is messy, and it's very distracting for me to try to get work done when my desk is like that. So it's good to keep your workspace clean. It's also good to have a workspace that has things that make you feel comfortable or make you feel happy. So having a clean workspace doesn't mean that you have to get rid of everything on your desk and make it bare. No, I mean, you can have things that inspire you around you, things that just cheer you up and make you happy. That can also increase your productivity and lower your stress as well. And one other trick that I want to mention with this. So one thing that has been done, a couple studies have been done showing how our brains react to physical spaces. And something that they've discovered is something along these lines. So, when you have a lot of reading to do for a class, and so you decide to curl up in your bed and open your textbook and get your reading done. What tends to happen when you're in that setting? Usually, if you're anything like me, you start to want to fall asleep. Now, the reason that is your brain recognizes your bed and probably your bedroom space as the place where you sleep. So when you're in that setting, your brain just wants to go to sleep. Same thing, maybe you're studying in front of the TV and you're trying to get some stuff done. It's going to be really tempting for you to turn on the television and watch TV. So it's important to remember that our brains associate spaces that way. So it's really good to have a dedicated space specifically for getting work done and making sure that that space is suitable for getting work done. So that's another little trick to remember when thinking about the space where you study. The next thing that's really important, and again seems kind of obvious, but it's good to be said, is that it's important for you to take breaks. Now, this isn't just for your own sanity or your own stress levels, but actually our brains work better when they are given time to process information that we are feeding into it. So actually, if you have a lot of material that you have to study, or if you have long study sessions that you have to do, it's good to plan small breaks in your study sessions, so just to give yourself a rest, but also to give your brain a chance to absorb what it's learning and to just kind of reset and get ready for the next study session. So plan breaks throughout your day, throughout your study sessions, and just be kind to yourself and kind to your brain. Now, this is a big topic for a lot of people. Procrastination gets all of us and is a difficult thing for all of us to manage. Unfortunately, there's no secret magical fix to this. It's just going to be different for everyone. The best advice that I can give you for this is to learn how you tend to procrastinate the most. So if you are very easily distracted by your phone when you're trying to study, maybe turn your phone off while you study. Or if you study on your computer a lot and you tend to click over into Google and do whatever, maybe shut your Wi-Fi off on your computer while you are studying. These are just some tricks to kind of help your brain focus. So learn how you tend to procrastinate the most and try to subvert yourself or combat yourself with coming up with ways to kind of avoid those distractions. Last thing for this is to set yourself goals, especially day-to-day goals. This goes back to making a to-do list. It's very good for you to kind of set goals for yourself of things you want to accomplish in a day or in a period of time, just so you have something to work towards and to motivate yourself. But along with this, Just remember to be kind to yourself and remember to uh, judge yourself as bestly as you can for how much you're going to be able to manage. Don't set yourself impossible goals or just too big goals, because if you don't meet those goals, you're going to be disappointed in yourself. You're going to get frustrated. So try to set yourself manageable goals so that you can encourage yourself and feel productive, and not get discouraged. All right. So moving on, we're going to talk about study techniques that work for you as kind of the last big area of study techniques that can kind of help you. And this is, again, this is going to be very general because it's going to look different for different people and it's going to look different for different classes. So this is just going to be kind of be an overview of some general study techniques that might be helpful for you. So first thing, again, this seems pretty obvious, but it's very important. It's better to get a good night's sleep than to stay up all night cramming, especially if you followed a lot of the other tips and tricks and you've set aside good time for yourself to study and you've accomplished a lot of good study sessions. Don't feel like you have to just keep studying. At a point, it's good to kind of just stop, shut your brain down, and get a good night's sleep. Obviously, every now and then there's going to be times where you haven't had enough time to study and you might need to stay up kind of late. But do keep in mind that your brain needs sleep and your brain functions better when you're running on a lot of sleep. So try to budget your time as best you can to allow yourself to get a good night's rest, especially before tests. The next thing, you've probably heard this from a lot of people, but figure out what type of a learner you are. And this can be a little bit cliche and a little bit not helpful. I'm sure you've heard this a lot. Oh, find out, yeah, if you're a visual learner or an audible learner or verbal or physical or whatever. And while that sometimes isn't very helpful, it can be helpful to learn what type of learner you are just so that you can study as best you can. And honestly, you might end up being a mix of some of those different styles. A lot of people are. For instance, I'm kind of a mixture of a verbal and an audible learner. I have to write stuff down to study, but I also do well by reading out loud to myself so I can hear it. But just kind of maybe look up some of these different styles, figure out what works best for you, and then you can kind of narrow down some study techniques that might work best for you. Next thing, please keep in mind that reading your textbook and just going to class, those are not good study techniques. Those are just kind of the bare minimum of the things that you should be doing. In order to study and be prepared for taking exams or doing projects or whatever, you have to actually engage with the material. And that's where taking notes, making flashcards, doing things like that comes into play. You have to actually engage with the material to learn it. And that's going to look differently for different people. But a lot of ways that are good for you to do this is to take notes in class, obviously, but also take notes while you're reading your textbook or reading books or whatever. And flashcards are another really great way to engage with material. Last thing, I know I've already said this, but I'm going to say it again. Remember that the same techniques won't work for everyone. So figure out what works best for you and stick with that. Don't feel like you have to do something just because other people do it or just because it's recommended. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Find something that works for you. All right, so now that we've kind of talked about some large scale areas where you can be thinking about how to improve or how to get started on learning some of these different techniques and methods, I'm going to tell you how the ARC specifically can help you with these different things. So the first thing that's really important is to remember that we have unlimited online tutoring. Because of COVID, we aren't doing in-person tutoring at the moment. Most of our tutoring is done online. But you can come in as often as you like online, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But we have tutors for a great number of the classes that are offered at John Tyler. So if you need help with any of your classes, please check with us and see if we have tutors to help, because we probably do. And we would love to help you out with tutoring for your courses. Another thing you can do is come in and make a study plan with our tutors. So I showed you that study plan in Google Calendars at kind of towards the beginning. Our tutors are actually trained to help you make one of those study plans. So if you are struggling and need some help getting on the right foot with that, please come in and work with our tutors on building a study plan. They would love to help you out with that. Another really great thing that can be helpful for you is to ask the tutors how they take notes or how they study. So if you're taking a specific class, let's say like a bio class or a math class, we have tutors who have taken those classes. We hire them because they are good students and they're good at what they do. So they probably have a lot of techniques and skills that might also be helpful for you. So if you're working in a particular class and you want help with study techniques or study skills for that class, come in and see if you can chat with one of our tutors about what they do. And you might learn some helpful things that are also good for you in building skills for that particular class. Another thing is you can come in and study with the tutors. So let's say that you've worked through a lot of your material, you've made a study guide or you have a study guide, or you've made flashcards or whatever. You can come in and study with our tutors. You can even come in and study on your own if you'd like to. And then if you get stuck on something, you can ask our tutors for help, and they'll pop in and help you out. Whatever works best for you, please know that we are here as a resource for you whenever you need us, even during that study process. And last thing I'm going to tell you about is our study skills guide. This is a really great resource that we have just launched. It is a repository, a web page that includes a lot of different materials on a lot of these different areas that I've talked about. I'm going to show you how to access it, but it has videos and articles and resources on a lot of different areas that I've talked about. So I'll show you how to get to that in just a minute. And that is a really great resource to do a deeper dive on some of these things that I've talked to you about if you want to start getting more skills in those different areas. So please keep in mind that the ARC isn't the only resource available to you. You have a lot of resources here at John Tyler. For instance, you have your instructors. They are always open to helping you whenever you need it. They have office hours set aside specifically to help you. So please take advantage of that. Your advisor is also going to be very helpful with helping you plan out your classes and different things like that. The library is really great for research or technology assistance. Career services is fantastic for building a resume or looking for jobs or internships, all those different kinds of things. And then student activities has some great resources such as clubs or activities on campus to kind of help you get plugged in with other students and to kind of help you, relax and do some fun things that might help manage your stress. And there's a whole lot more than what I've mentioned here as well. But really, some of the best students aren't necessarily per se the smartest students, but some of the best students are students who know when to ask for help and know what resources are available for them. So please keep in mind, poke around on the John Tyler webpage and see what's out there for you and make sure that you take advantage of it. So the last thing that I'm going to walk through is how to get to our services from our webpage. All right, so if you go to the John Tyler webpage, and then you can find us under academics, or you can find us under services, and then click on tutoring. And here's our webpage. This is how you get to all of our different services. So if you want to come in for drop-in tutoring, we are open Monday through Thursday from 10 to 6. You do not need to make an appointment for this. You can just click in using the banner up here or the button down here, and that'll take you right into our Zoom room where we have tutors who are ready to help you. We also have after hours appointments. So these are for students who can't make it in during our drop-in hours for whatever reason. These after hours appointments are available for evenings and the weekends. So just give us 2 business days to schedule the appointment, and you can fill out a request using this button here. We also have our online paper submission service. So if you are not able to come in for an in-person session and you want some feedback from a tutor, you can submit your paper here. and we will send you back some feedback via email from our tutors to help you with that. So we also offer virtual study groups. So we realize that now with COVID, with things being online, it can be a little hard to make those connections with your classmates on study groups and forming those study groups. So if you fill out this interest form here, we can help you get set up with a study group, either with your peers, if there's a lot of people who are interested in that class, or we will recommend that you come in for tutoring and even work with a tutor on that as well. We have a lot of other assistance beyond what I've just talked about. We also have an Instagram that you can follow for updates on our services or events that are going on and just fun content from the tutors. We have a blog, and then we have a YouTube channel with a lot of fun things on there as well. A lot of useful things on how to study and stuff specific to your courses. So definitely check that out. This is a video that explains what our online tutoring is like. So if you just want to get an idea of it before you come in, you can see that there. And then here are all of our events and workshops for the semester. We are always offering really great stuff. So definitely check that out as well. And then the last thing I want to tell you about is the ARC LibGuides. We have 3. We have one for the Math and STEM Center, which deals with all things science, technology, engineering, and math. They have a lot of great resources on there for those classes specifically. The Writing Center has resources for all things involving writing, writing basics, stuff for specific assignments. So definitely check that out as well. And then I will show you the study skills LibGuide in just a sec, but also keep in mind that we have another online tutoring service called BrainFuse, which you can access through your courses. And if you are interested in becoming a tutor, this is where our application is, and you can fill that out as well. But now I will show you the study skills LibGuide. So this is the study skills LibGuide. It has resources on a lot of the different things that I've just talked about. We have stuff for managing time and stress, in-class skills such as lectures and taking notes, doing homework and studying, test taking skills and test guides for specific types of tests, and a lot of different other things as well. But essentially these different areas provide resources and videos and articles on all these different things so that you can explore these topics more in depth and start building these skills for yourself. And we are always looking to build this guide more and add more things to it. So if you see things on here, or if you have things that you think would be beneficial to add to it, or if there's a topic that you think we should cover, just shoot us an email at our email address right here, and we would be happy to add that as well. That is all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any other questions, please contact us via email, arc@jtcc.edu. We would love to help you out more with these different things. Thank you so much.